tell us where you're coming from on this topic, the science versus journalism topic.
Well, I don't see it as a science versus journalism topic. I see it as two areas that need to be much more compatible, I guess, in the area. And I work on mosquito-borne disease, and quite often there have been issues with the issue of climate change and exacerbating mosquito-borne disease. Okay. Now, as a scientist who works in the area, there may be some areas that may be a bit worse and some areas that may be a bit better, but there's a lot of uncertainty in that area. So, I'm often interviewed and asked about climate change and mosquito-borne disease, and again, each mosquito has a different ecology, biology, and each disease has its own ecology, and you have to look at them one at a time and drill into the science behind them.
Okay. Do you think that when you're interviewed about it, do the journalists that are interviewing you who then go on to produce a story, do they misrepresent you, or do they do it well?
Fortunately, I've been privy to being able to see in the written work getting a draft before it goes out, and so I can correct any inconsistencies that I see in there. And again, journalism is about weighing up one side against the other, and quite often when you're telling a narrative about science, there may not be another side to that narrative.
Yeah.
So often the journalist has to bring that into the conversation, whether it exists or not. Okay.
But they are required to put whatever terms you give them into an understandable... They have to translate it into layman's terms, don't they, for
Absolutely.
a wider
audience?
Difficult.
The complexity of a lot of scientific research is quite difficult to distill it to layman's English. And occasionally liberties are taken, which can drift somewhat from the main narrative of the research.
Yeah. Do you think journalists, having said that, do you think that journalists should have a science degree if they're going to be reporting on science?
You can say yes at one side, but I think a journalist needs to understand the process of science. You don't need a science degree to understand that. And understanding that it's hypothesis driven, you develop a theory, you work on that theory, and you come towards an answer to the questions you're after. And there is always a bit of uncertainty in your interpretation. It doesn't mean that the science is incorrect or could be flawed. It just means that we are very cautious people and we rely on evidence to make the next call, where the rest of the world, it likes a tight story, it likes a beginning and an ending, and it wants an answer. And, we often can't put, a hand on our hearts and say 100% it is exactly this. But all the evidence is compelling, and it seriously suggests this. And so we work in an area that the public probably don't understand that well, and it's understanding the process of science. So if the journalist doesn't understand that, then often that they can drift somewhat from the story, or take a piece of research and only take a small selection of part of that research and deliver it, and because it's out of context, it can be interpreted incorrectly.
That's part of our aim. I am working with a team partner, and we've been collaborating about what the problems are, and we've figured that sometimes science is misrepresented unintentionally in the media, and sometimes it's intentional. So we've found two sides on the climate change debate. There are often journalists who give more, they're said to give more a voice to the climate change skeptics than they should, and that means that people have a bad interpretation of the impacts of climate change and that sort of thing. What do you think about that?
That's true. There's a lot of misinformation around, and because journalism, as I said, in journalism, that you're taught to develop two sides to the story. And unfortunately, in the climate change debate, 97% of scientists who work in the field or publish in the field are, behind that climate change is upon us. It's happening. The evidence is extremely compelling. But it's the journalist that has to go and find the other 3%, or go out of the actual people who work in the field and try and balance that story. And what that does is confuse the audience who's reading about the story, and they think, well, potentially, these scientists are undecided. When in fact, if you follow the literature and the science, it's extremely compelling, and there's no other reason for what's happening. So it's an annoying issue, because working, touching into these areas, you see this all the time, and certain media outlets that, will claim that they give a fair story, and they may give one or two fair stories. But if you dig into that paper further, into the editorial columns and things like that, you'll find it, full of questioning science and full of, unsubstantiated non-evidence, I guess. And again, the reader doesn't know what's behind those stories and if there's a motivation there. So they get, misinformed, and they, are unlikely to take a forward step, in making decisions, regarding, the way they vote or who they should talk to about the issue. And unfortunately, we're getting to a stage now where we're seeing, in the field of climate change, we're seeing a lot of odd stuff in the weather patterns happening, over the last